Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the Baldur's Gate 3 characters as roommates on a tier list. So this is a pretty funny one, but I'll be ranking these if they're going to be good to live with or just completely awful or F tier. Now, for starting off, we got Shadowheart here. I feel like Shadowheart's probably a pretty good roommate overall, so I'm gonna put her up probably in the perfect. I would say Shadowheart's good. I feel like she would be like a clean and tidy roommate. She's got good comedic chops too. I think Shadowheart's pretty funny overall, so I'm gonna put her in the perfect. Honestly, all the companions at the start of the game are pretty good. I would say they're probably the best out of the ones that we got here. So we're gonna probably put a lot of them up in there. So Gale be a great roommate as well. He just be in his room reading books all day. Astarion, I would say decent. You'd have to lock your door at nighttime because he is a vampire after all. I'll put him in decent. Astarion would be funny to have around, but living with Astarion, I feel like would be a little bit concerning at times. Depends if there's a fresh blood around for him. Lae'zel, I feel like would be a good roommate too. She is stuck in her ways a lot of the time. I feel like she would probably be a pretty good roommate though. I would say a bit better than Astarion because you don't have to worry about her as much as I feel. Will would be a great roommate. Blade of Frontiers. I feel like he'd be a pretty fun guy to be around often. And as long as Mizora's not around, he'd be pretty chill. We do have Mizora on this list too. So Karlach as well, S tier. She's or perfect tier, I guess. She's a fireball. She's full of energy. She'd be fun to have around. And hey, if the apartment gets cold in the wintertime, you know what to do. So I guess of all the companions, they'd all be pretty decent. The Dark Urge, however, you know what happens when he long rests, which happens every day. Yeah, he's going to the F tier. You don't want him around. You'd have to have him chained up, and even then, he's still a threat. So, well, I love the Dark Urge. Probably my favorite origin in Baldur's Gate 3. I would not want them as a roommate. Next is Halsin. I feel like Halsin's also would be a perfect roommate. You know, if anything ever happens to the apartment, he can turn into a bear and do bear carpentry, and he's just a useful guy. I feel like he's handy, and he's chill vibes too. So yeah, I would say Halsin would definitely be a perfect roommate. Minthara, I love Minthara, but I feel like she'd be just awful to live with. I think she's one of my favorite companions in the game. I think she's hilarious. She's very blunt and rude. And yeah, I think she would be awful to live with just because of that. But she's still a great character in a video game. Just wouldn't want her in my house. Jaheira, I would say she's also S tier. She's funny too, like similar to Shadowheart. She's got a funny personality. She's fun to be around. She's experienced. She's probably good at cooking. I feel like she'd be someone you'd want to have around in your house because she's got lots of stories and she's got comedy. Minsk too. Minsk and Boo. Give yourself a little pet until we get to Scratch. Minsk is hilarious too. He'd be someone like, he's a good vibe kind of guy, and he's chill. Boo comes along for free. He got a giant dwarf hamster. So I'd say that they're all pretty good in the S tier. Next we got, I think this is the Emperor. There is another Mind Flayer here, alongside the Dream Guardian. I think that's Omilium. We're gonna put. He's kind of a manipulator. I think that I would put him in the F tier as well. I sided with the Emperor in my first playthrough. It just felt right, but I do think he'd probably be not the best to live with because he can control your mind. And yeah, you know how that goes. So he's definitely going to the F tier just because very big threat to live with. Raphael, same deal. I would put him in the F tier too, just because he's literally the devil, and living with the devil would probably be one of the worst things possible. Devils and even like the fiends of like, they're kind of like lawyers. They have these contracts that are really hard to get out of. I don't think I'd want to live with them, so I'm also going to put Mizora in the F tier. Like, she manipulated Will. Actually, maybe no. I'll put her in the no good tier. Like, as long as I don't sign the pact with her, and not to, you're in the clear. If she was your roommate and she had someone else under their pact, I feel like she ain't bothering you. Like, she's pretty okay to the player character in this game. She's mostly just tormenting Will. So I would say she's no good. No good as a roommate, but she's not F tier because these are bigger threats. Next we got Roland. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. But I would say he's good. Zolok. Oh my god, I don't know how. I literally searched this up before starting this video. He's a good tiefling. It breaks my heart whenever you attack the Grove and you have to see his reaction. I think he's a pretty good guy. Of all the tieflings, they're all pretty decent people, and they're just trying to get by. I feel like he'd be kind of similar, same as Lae'zel, just trying to get by, and not that much of an issue. Alfira the Bard, I would say she's perfect. Yeah, she's probably a little bit better. She makes music. She has an unfortunate story with long resting with a certain other character, so as long as we keep them apart, she'd be a great welcome to the team. I think she also goes, yeah, in perfect tier. Roland, I think that he's probably in the no good. Kind of a jerk. I guess it really depends how your story plays out. I just always had like not the best endings with him, and he sides with someone that's kind of evil. So I feel like he'd be no good at all. And he's got a big ego too. On top of all that, he kind of beefs with Gale, and yeah, I just feel like he wouldn't be someone you want to live with. Scleratus Fel. I would say that he's probably pretty awful. He's less dangerous than some of the other characters, but he's just an evil dude, and he's like he's got that small dog kind of energy. He's gross to look at, so yeah, I would put him in the awful tier. Yeah, Minthara is probably better though. Next we got Wolbrin Bongle and Barkus Root. So yeah, this is interesting because both of these characters are throughout the entire game. Well, I guess one of them you find strapped to the windmill, and Wolbrin Root, I would say, is good tier. Barkus, probably awful tier. He's evil. He wants you to kill all the gnomes in Act 3, and he's not happy if you don't side with him for that. But there are some interesting ways the story can go. Like if you attack Gortash's ceremony, you can kind of bypass his whole story, and then he becomes kind of a good character. Maybe I'll put him in the decent tier. Yeah, I'll go that route. Now we got some very, very good boys. We got Scratch, easy, perfect tier. It's a dog. Having a dog in your house, it's nice. So kind of a no-brainer. I don't need to talk too much about having a dog in your house. An Owlbear cub, though, also in the S tier or perfect tier, because just face it, it's cute and it's similar to Scratch. I feel like if you had both of these in your house, they would play with each other. You'd have to have a big backyard for both of them. And these things get pretty large, but if you keep it safe, I feel like an Owlbear would be a nice companion to have. So, yeah. Next, we got the Drider. It's interesting because if you side with the goblins in Act 2, or in Act 1, when you get to Act 2, you can actually walk alongside him. I think that's pretty cool, but I do feel like he'd be pretty awful to live with, too. He's also a big, disgusting spider with multiple eyes. Actually, maybe for that, the multiple gross eyes aspect, I'll put him in the F tier because it'd be disgusting to have that or have a giant spider living with you. And also, let's just, yeah, rip the band-aid off. All of Ketheric Thorm's children are F tier for sure. I don't need to talk too much about them. If you met them, you'll know why they're F tier. This one's obsessed with gold, this one drinks a lot, and this one wants to be a doctor, and kind of like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but way worse. They're all evil to the bone and disgusting. Wouldn't want them around. Balthazar as well. He's trying to raise the dead. I feel like he's kind of an extension of them in a sense. Would not want him around for sure. This is kind of the opposite of a bell curve, I've noticed. But we have some really good characters that are really positive and nice. And then we have some really evil characters. So, yeah. Next we got Elminster. I feel like Elminster, he would be a pretty good roommate. I would put him in the good tier. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and in general, just like a chilled dude. Probably one of the strongest, definitely one of the strongest in the game. He's like a level 20 wizard. Especially if you got Gale in there, he'd be a good accompaniment to him and prevent Gale from exploding all over the place. So that'd be nice. Elminster, the GOAT. Ketheric Thorm, I feel like he would also be... Actually, he was actually somewhat of a redemption arc in the game. I'm going to put him in the awful tier. Just not as bad as his sons and daughter, I guess. You get to listen to J.K. Simmons' voice if he lives with you, so that's again kind of a bonus. I might move Minthara up to no good. Yeah, I think she's just ahead of these here, so I'll put her in there. Gortash, I would say, is probably awful as well. Egotistical, probably worse than Ketheric. Not the worst of the big three, though. I would say Orin is easy F tier. Gortash, at least, he's more focused on, like, his status and things like that, whereas Orin is just focused on, like, being disgusting and ripping at your throat. Like, she's just a certified freak, so she goes in the F tier because, yeah, ain't nobody want to be near that. Withers. I feel like Withers would be was perfect, S tier. Withers is the man. He's also, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but he's a pretty important character. He can also revive you, so what's better? And, you know, if you end up passing out and you need to revive, he's there for you. Withers is kind of the man. Like, he's always just down. He just shows up at your camp, doesn't explain himself. He's just there. He helps you respec. Yeah, Withers is going in the S tier. Even though he's, like, not the most pretty thing to look at, he's a G. He's a man. Next, we got Yurgir. He can side with you, which is pretty cool. So I'd probably put him in the awful. He's a little bit better than Raphael. But still, awful. It'd be awful to live with. Any of these could also probably go in the F tier. Isabel. I feel like Isabel and Dame Aelin both go in the S tier. They're just trying to live their life. Whenever you rescue them, they just, you know, they hang out at camp and they're just happy to be together in each other's company. So if you had them both as a pair, I feel like they'd be great to live with because they just care about each other so much, and that's nice. Also, she has one of the coolest moments in Act 3 when she back breaks Lorokin. I'm surprised he's not on this list, but yeah, check that scene out. It's pretty funny where she holds him up over her head and smashes him off her knee. So cool. So she goes in the S tier. They're both great. Khazadar. He's evil. Beyond evil. I'm putting him in the F tier because of what he did to Astarion. Yeah, he's... There's a lot to say about him, and I feel like he's just done so much irreplaceable damage for the last 200 years to Astarion that he would do the same if you live with him. So, F tier. Valconia Defeer. I feel like it's a complicated one. I feel like she'd still be pretty bad to live with, but not as bad as some other choices here, so I put her in the awful tier, I guess. I think this is supposed to be the Dream Guardian, which is also, by extension, him, our Emperor. So, F tier, because manipulative. That really is it. They're manipulators. You wouldn't want them around. And then finally, I think is Omelium. I would say he's decent. You know, he's a mind flayer, yes, but he's not like the rest. He's not trying to eat your brains. He's trying to help find ways for other mind flayers to not eat brains. He's a good character, I would say. So yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm not sure. Like, I could probably change these around a little bit. Like, Astarion would be pretty funny if he just wasn't a vampire, so you take that out of the equation. But it's a big part of who he is. But yeah, I think the best roommates in this game would be like Shadowheart, Gale, Will, Karlach, Halsin, Jaehaera, Minsk, Alfira, Scratch, Owlbear Cub, Withers, Isabel, and Dame Aelin. Lae'zel could even go up in there if she just chills out a little bit. But there it is. That is the characters in Baldur's Gate 3 ranked as if they were roommates on this tier list. So, pretty funny video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. And if you found this video fun, please hit the subscribe button below. And I'll see you all in the next one.